welcome to the first episode of the Pink Juice podcast. I've got my pink juice with me here. I'm going to talk about why the podcast is called Pink Juice later on. But yeah, welcome to the first episode of the Pink Juice podcast. Thank you so much for joining in and tuning in. I am so scared and nervous to do this podcast, honestly. I feel like it is something I have been wanting to do for so long now, and for me starting a podcast was always just a matter of when, and I don't know why, but I very impulsively decided I was going to start a week ago, and now I'm here in the studio with my own pink juice, with my own pink juice sign, recording a pink juice podcast. So episode 1 is going to be your classic, who am I, what's my story? So let's just get right into it. My name is Gabi, I'm 28, and I don't even really know how to describe myself and what I do these days. I run one business, which is called Females Flying Solo, which I'm going to talk about in a second of how I got into that. But yeah, I feel like I'm going through a bit of like an identity crisis because I'm one of those people that wants to do multiple things. Like, I'm not someone that just wants to do just one thing, and I think this is what has led me to actually starting this podcast. So let's rewind back to the beginning, back to when I was in school and what I actually enjoyed doing. So I have always loved psychology. Like, that has always been my favorite subject to talk about, to learn, and I have been studying psychology for the past 12 years. Let's just say I started studying psychology for GCSEs when I was like 16. I think that's how old you are when you study at GCSEs. I don't even know, do GCSEs even exist anymore? But yeah, I did psychology for my GCSEs, then I did my A-levels, my degree, and my master's in clinical and health psychology. And it's what has led me into also wanting to start this podcast, because I just love talking about all things self-growth, personal development, and relationships as well. I feel like I'm always getting drawn into reading, researching, talking about the psychology of relationships, and I absolutely love it. And this is just what I've always wanted to do. So that is me and my psychology background. And when I graduated with my master's in psychology, I was working a toxic 9-to-5 corporate job that had nothing to do with psychology actually, and I absolutely hated it. This was like during COVID time, so I was also wanting to get like my psychology experience at the time. So I was also working like 12-hour shifts in a brain injury hospital, and I was just working Monday to Friday 9-to-5, Saturday, Sunday, 12-hour shifts in a brain injury hospital. So I was living a very intense lifestyle, but it was COVID at the time, so there was nothing else to do anyway. And eventually I got burnt out. I was in a long-term 4-year relationship, which just ended up being not for me. We were just not aligned. We were just so young. I don't really know, like, we just didn't know who we were. I did not know who I was. This was when I was like in my early 20s. So I just wanted to escape. Like, I genuinely wanted to escape the life in the UK. Hated my job. I was not fulfilled in a relationship. I didn't know who I was. I didn't even know anything about like self-growth, personal development. I just knew that I enjoyed learning about psychology. So I did what anyone else would do, and I just packed my bags, booked a one-way flight, and moved all the way to Thailand, which is such a full circle moment because that was 5 years ago when I was 23. And now I'm in Thailand right now, where that journey began. And 5 years ago, I never thought I would be running my own podcast, which is just crazy. So yeah, I just escaped. I basically found a job in Thailand, ran away, and I don't know what happened along the way. I guess I just discovered solo traveling, which has been such an important part of my journey, because I feel like during my solo travels, as cliche as it sounds when people say like you find yourself, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I'm not sure I found myself. I found like my spark that was missing for a long time, but I feel like I created the person I've always wanted to be. I definitely just traveled so much, and I love traveling, but also during that time when I was moved abroad, I didn't know anyone. I just had to basically survive and do things by myself. I just grew so much as a person, as a woman. I became resilient, independent, and that's just the journey that I've been on for the past 5 years. And I feel like that journey is going to continue on and literally until the day I die, because I feel like I've discovered now personal growth, self-development, healing, and yeah, I just love it. So solo travel allowed me to do that, and I genuinely don't think if I didn't solo travel, I wouldn't even be sat here recording this podcast. So that is my little heartbreak, corporate job, moving abroad, traveling story. But how did that actually lead me to starting my business? I ended up solo traveling all over Asia and in multiple different areas, and I just was like lonely. I was so lonely. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to solo travel anymore. Like, I love solo travel, don't get me wrong, but I was just lonely, and I was like, oh my God, what if I just found some girls that wanted to solo travel with me? And I remember this was like 2.5 years ago now, and I was visiting my friend in Vietnam. I was staying with her and her husband for a week, and they were like off doing their own things and I was off doing my own things. And I just remember like feeling, they went on like a weekend trip and I was just like in their apartment on my own. I was sick. I wanted to take a day trip the next day to Halong Bay, and I was like, oh my God, I just feel I'm gonna go. I have to go because I will regret it if I don't just get up and do it. But it was just such a lonely experience. I had to be on this like cruise that I just was feeling so lonely, and I was just so sick, and I was just like, I'm sick of being alone on this journey of solo traveling. And also back then, like, social media there was a lot of people documenting their solo travel journey, but not as many as there is now. And I just started a Facebook group. I called it Females Flying Solo, Community for Solo Female Travelers, and I already had a bit of a following on social media, so I was just posting it on Instagram and stuff. And yeah, I was just posting in there, and that kind of was like the birth of my business. But I accidentally started it because I just wanted to create like a little group where I could chat to people, I could chat to a few girls, so I didn't have to feel alone. And then I was like, okay, what if I just organize like a group trip? Because I still want to travel to different places, I just don't necessarily want to travel on my own. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna organize a group trip to Costa Rica. I organized that group trip, and then 20 girls joined me. So I sold this group trip out, 20 girls joined me, and I was like, okay, well, why don't I just do another one? And I did another one to Colombia, that sold out again, and I did another one to Japan, that sold out. And then for the past 2 years, I've just kept it going. So I accidentally started Females Flying Solo. It all just started with me being lonely in Vietnam and wanting to just chat to some girls. And yeah, I accidentally ended up starting this business. So Females Flying Solo is a community for solo female travelers, and we run female-only group trips to bucket list destinations all over the world. And I've been running that for the past 2 years. I basically just went with that idea of the first group trip, and I was like, I'm going to do another one. But when I first started it, like, I was just a girl that wanted to go on this trip with other girls. I never intended it for it to turn into a business, but eventually it just did. And I got to a situation where like I was so busy and I was making a little bit of money from it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my part-time job and I'm just going to go all in on this. And I just haven't stopped since. And there's been so many challenges and ups and downs of being a founder and running a business. And I think this is where my identity I've struggled with over the past year, because I almost attach like my identity and my self-worth to this business, to Females Flying Solo. And you hear people saying all the time, stick to one thing, be laser focused, and just do that one thing until you smash it and then move on to another thing. But for the past year, I've been just feeling a pull to go back to those roots, to those psychology roots, and that interest of learning about different topics. Yeah, and I've just I just haven't known how to go back into that. And a few weeks ago, I was actually with some friends. We were just talking about this, and I was like, I would love to start my own podcast. Like, in my ideal scenario, I would love to start a relationship podcast with like my future partner, but obviously I'm single right now. And they were like, well, why don't you just start a podcast now? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, how can I talk about relationships when I'm single? And I was like, wait, that's the point. I can still talk about relationships and dating and just the highs and lows of being a woman in the modern day. That is a topic I love talking about. That is how we've got to the podcast, which is just so weird, because how do you go from solo traveling to then starting a podcast in relationships? And I think the reason I've been so resistant into wanting to branch out to doing something else is because I thought that my identity has to just be in like that one lane. Like, I must be the girl who does the solo travel thing, does the group trips, travels with the girls, and that's what she needs to be known for. That needs to be where she sticks to, the lane that she goes down, and she mustn't branch off. But actually, I was like, I'm going to keep myself miserable, and I will end up resenting my business and the community and the girls that I travel with and my customers if I actually don't fill the other buckets that I feel that, I don't know, that itch, and I'm like, I need to scratch it, and that's where I am today. And I heard this quote the other day that basically said, if it's your calling, it will keep calling. And it just hit so hard, because I was like, if you feel like, if your intuition is telling you something, oh my God, there is something else that I want to pursue, like, just go and do it. And this is exactly why also I started Females Flying Solo. Like, it is my purpose, without a doubt. I love doing it. And it was almost like my intuition at the time, 2.5 years ago, guided me to just start that Facebook group. There was a little voice within me that was like, just start it, see what happens. And that led me to starting that. And I've had this voice within me for the past year that's been like, go back into psychology, do something, dip your feet into something and see what happens. But I've almost created this resistance myself. And I just thought, you know what? No, I'm no longer doing it. And I'm going to start this podcast, and I'm going to do it now. I am very impulsive, so when I get something in I have an idea, I'm like, okay, let's just go with it. Let's just do it now. If it fails, whatever, but let's just go and do it. So what is Pink Juice podcast actually going to be about? It's not just going to be limited to relationships or dating. I really don't want this to be like another girls yapping about boys podcast, because girls can do both. Yes, we can yap about boys, but we can also have very intellectual conversations and speak about relationships and the dynamics of dating in a very knowledgeable way. And that's what I want this podcast to be. I want it to be a bit of a blend of both. I feel like right now in the podcast space, you have your yappy, chatty, funny, very chill podcasts, and then you have your serious interviews with experts, guest speakers that are serious topics. And I want this to be a blend of both. Yes, we can talk about these serious topics and bring light to these conversations, but we can also just do it in a way that's lighthearted. And that's what I really want to do with the Pink Juice pod. I want to be talking about relationships, the dynamics between men and women in the current day, dating as a single woman, relationships with women who are in relationships, not just women but also men, and also just have fun. At the end of the day, it's not that deep. So I just want it to be a fun podcast about the highs and lows of being a woman in the modern day. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm so scared, but I think the reason that I'm scared, because I'm so scared, I need to just go and do it. I think my biggest fear is being cancelled. Oh my God, we are literally living in this cancel culture, and social media it's a scary world out there, guys. And I'm scared of saying something wrong, but ultimately I'm also just trying to accept that I will say things wrong. We all say things wrong. We're all human beings, and if we can still shine a light on these topics of dating and relationships, and just chatting about it, because if we don't, the social media space is going to be just filled with complete rubbish on toxicity. So I'm trying to just accept that actually I will get things wrong. I am scared, I am nervous, but I need to also just trust myself that I will be capable of dealing with it if and when it happens. I know I am someone that has really strong views when it comes to... So why Pink Juice? Honestly, it's just such a random name. My favorite color is pink, and I was trying to come up with podcast names that are random, and the word Pink Juice just really came into my mind. And I was like, oh my God, that's gonna be so fun. Why don't I just call it Pink Juice? I have watched enough of The Diary of a CEO and Stephen Bartlett's episode, and Stephen always says you need to put yourself in a position where you are willing to be embarrassed. And I feel like the word Pink Juice is kind of childish, it's funny, it's random, and that's why I love it. And also, when I first started telling people about my idea, I had a lot of resistance. I had a lot of criticism from people. People were like, oh, it's provocative, it's weird, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, I don't care, you're gonna remember it. And I want to be bold, I want to be fun, because that's exactly what this podcast is about. Like, you can be serious and you can have fun at the same time. And that's exactly the point of the Pink Juice pod. And I just think it's fun. So it's completely random. There's no meaning behind Pink Juice other than I literally just came up with it. And once I came up with it, I just ran with the idea and I was like, okay, I'm going to order a sign and I'm going to create a Pink Juice. And here I am recording the Pink Juice pod. And it just feels exciting and fun to say it. I'm such like a creative person. So if you're expecting like a meaning behind Pink Juice pod, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but there actually isn't one. So like I say, that's my story, and that is really my intention with this podcast, is to really talk about those topics around dating, relationships, the highs and lows of being a woman and a man in the modern day, and it being half serious but also half fun at the same time. And it's going to be a combination of solo episodes like now, but also some episodes with some guests as well, which I'm very excited for. And yeah, this is just the beginning. I actually don't have all the answers. Even though I have a master's in psychology, that does not mean I have all the answers. It is just something I'm incredibly interested in and that I'm constantly always reading about. I am nervous. I'm scared. I may get things wrong, but that's okay. I'd rather know that I attempted to do something and get things wrong than never have tried in the first place. Yeah, I might get things wrong. I am nervous, but I do have a lot of juice to spill. Pardon the pun. I feel like I'm going to have to I do have a lot of juice to spill. I feel like I'm going to have to get used to saying that. It's actually so fun. I have some juice to spill. It's going to get juicy. Yeah, so stay tuned for episode 2. Thank you so much for watching. And make sure that you subscribe because I'm new to the podcast world. So I would absolutely love it and appreciate all the help and support. I would be forever grateful. And as all podcasts go, I've watched enough podcasts to know that there's always a ritual at the end. And one of our rituals on the Pink Juice pod is going to be, whether it's me doing a solo episode or a guest doing an episode, is sharing something that you do to fill your own cup. So something I've recently been doing to fill my own cup is playing paddle. Oh my God. I've entered the paddle cult and I'm obsessed. I'm getting lessons, I'm going to tournaments. I'm still so bad, I'm absolutely terrible at it, but it is the only thing that actually gets my mind off of work. I am someone who cannot sit still. If I can't just sit there and watch TV, I have to watch TV and do work in the background because I feel lazy. I feel like I'm not being productive. I really struggle to switch off, which I think probably a lot of people who are creative or entrepreneurs are going to relate with, but I really struggle to switch off. So paddle is the one thing that distracts my brain, and I am obsessed, guys. So if there are any paddle people out there, hit me up because I want to play. I'm hooked. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 1. I hope it wasn't too much chaotic. I feel this was scary, but I'm so glad the first one's out the way, and I am so excited to record more episodes now. Thank you.